celebrate.
Yeah,
I know you guys won't be enjoying these.
You don't.
I will. You guys are way too healthy over there. But are you excited for Sunday?
I am. There are two things I'm looking for, Jenny. I'm looking Denny Hamlin. Can he become the first driver to win 3 consecutive Daytona 500s? And Bubba Wallace. I believe Brand Jordan is giving him a car to win. He just has to stay out of harm's way and give himself a chance late in the race, Skip. I like Bubba Wallace in the Brand Jordan car.
And you just had Bubba on your podcast.
I did.
Right?
I did.
You did.
I did.
Really interesting.
Had Daryl Watt. I'll be Bubba. He's the only girlfriend is allowed to call him Daryl.
Okay.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know for all of us. I'm looking forward to it. I was there in 2015, and it's like nothing else to see it live. So thank you for the treats. I'm going to be enjoying my chocolates, and I got to get to some breaking news because J.J. Watt is no longer a Texan. In a video he released on Twitter this morning, Watt says he sat down with the McNair family, asked for his release, and they've mutually agreed to part ways. Watt thanked the city of Houston, but added, quote, "I'm excited and looking forward to a new opportunity." And according to Fox Bet, the Steelers and Packers have the best odds to land him, while his brother TJ is already actively recruiting JJ on Twitter. Wow, Shannon, how much can he help another team? This is big news.
That's a very interesting question, Skip, because I think the injuries over the last couple of years have kind of robbed JJ of his explosiveness because he was as good as we had in the league. He was being Aaron Donald before Aaron Donald burst onto the scene. And so last year he had 5 sacks in 16 games, Skip, and it was with he played a full season. But that was the first time in like 2 years of the last 5 that he's played over half the seasons. Torn pec in 2019, tibial plateau fracture in 2017, 2 back surgeries in 2016, Skip. You see a lot of lower stuff going on, which makes a defensive lineman explosive. Now, T.J. Watt, they play a 3-4 defense, maybe goes to his brother. The Packers, Wisconsin, goes home. Is he one of those guys that you're talking about that's willing that Tom Brady can recruit to go down to Tampa and play in that system? So it'll be very interesting, Skip. It's hard to say what it's hard for a guy that's had these kind of injuries to get better later in their career. But maybe a fresh start, maybe going somewhere else, hearing different terminology, being in a different environment can revive J.J. Watt, because there was a stretch there, Skip. We thought he was going to be the best defensive player to ever walk into the NFL.
Going on 32 years of age next month, 10 seasons. The Texans just let him go. So I assume they attempted to trade him, and there's no market trade-wise because these teams will sit back and say, well, we can probably get him for free. Right.
And you heard him speak out earlier, Skip, about his displeasure of what was going on in Houston. So this was...
No doubt.
Probably saw this coming.
So you and I opened this show back in September of 2016 with you going on record. You thought J.J. Watt at that point, just over 4 years ago, was the best player in football, said Hall of Famer Shannon Sharp. Not the best player on defense, the best player in football, said Shannon Sharp. All those injuries have piled up since then, and he has slowly sunk into the sunset with the Texans just because his body is betraying the way yours finally did at 35, but his is happening a little earlier because he is high contact, high collision. And as you said, 2 back surgeries. He tore his pec, knee strain, broken leg, ab tear, elbow dislocation, multiple hand injuries because he's always clutching, grabbing, trying to hold on to somebody. And so you say, well, how about performance? So I go on what I respect. You got a little respect for Pro Football Focus, but last 3 years he's started to fade down. But again, he was the 21st best defensive player this year. 21st, that's pretty good.
Defensive player or defensive lineman?
Defensive player. All defense. All defense. It's still pretty good. You know, like, there's some value there.
Right.
It always happens if you can just, because he's been stuck in a sad sack situation in Houston, sorry situation. Now the young quarterback wants out. Well, obviously, that wears on you too. So if you change scenery, if you have a little bit of a rebirth, you know, obviously, if you can reunite with your younger brother in Pittsburgh, if you can go home to Wisconsin, if you can play with Tom Brady, whatever it is, it's just going to revitalize you. And maybe maybe you feel a little better. Let's do Tampa. Maybe you go to Tampa and you're living in the warmth and the heat. Even Brady said, man, I wake up every morning, I feel so much better than I ever felt in New England.
It's different.
I'm never going back.
It's different, Skip. After, practicing in Denver, then going down to warm weather places to play. We played in Miami. We played in Tampa, played for when I was in Baltimore. Or going to San Diego. Like, man, in January like this, and it's like this year. Whew.
Okay. I don't know exactly how much I would risk to pay him.
Yeah.
But I think he has high value for a year or two, where you could get Sue value out of him the way the Bucs did, because Sue still is playing at a fairly high level. He's not what he was coming out of Nebraska.
Right.
But he helped them a lot this year. He helped them this past Sunday.
He had a sack and a half.
He did.
In the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And we know he's always been great against the run. But Skip, like I said, these injuries, I think as the injuries started to mount, you saw JJ production start to wane.
Yep.
And I think some of that had to do with his training. And I think he had to change up the way he's training. And that's the hardest thing to get, Skip, is that when you're an elite athlete and you're young, you can train not only with intensity, but with volume.
Yep.
The hardest thing that I had to understand to back away, Skip, I couldn't do the volume. I couldn't do the 10 to 15 to 20, 200-meter sprints. But I couldn't get that through my head until I started pulling hamstrings. I started pulling groins, and I started pulling quads. And I went, my trainer was in Shannon. You can't run at 25. I mean, at 30, at 33, like you did at 25.
Nope.
So stop trying it. Don't do hard. Do smarter. And so I think that's what JJ is going to have to. You can't do 1,000-pound tire flips, JJ. You can't be squatting 650 pounds on your back, JJ. It's a different game now. You got to train smarter, bro.
Too much of that, to me, from a distance, was for the sake of your brand on social media as opposed to winning football games and performing at the highest level.
Right.
You don't need to do those things unless you just want the likes on social media, because I think he social media his way out of football too in Houston because he was trying death-defying stunts like the tire flip. And after a while, you're probably putting your body in harm's way where you're risking, once the season starts, you're going to be more vulnerable to injury because you pushed way too hard in the offseason.
Right.
So if he smartens up that way, if he swallows some of his ego on social media, if you put him in the middle of that Steelers rush, that'd work.
Yeah, I think he has, like I said, Skip, will he ever be what he once was? No. But I think he can get, like you said, I believe he can give you great value. I think he can get you somewhere between 5 and 8 sacks in a season.
He could.
Given a great situation.
Hey, if you put him between the Smiths in Green Bay, sure, that would work.
Yeah.
If they somehow keep Shaq Barrett with JPP and obviously Vita Vea and you put him in there, that work? Sure, it would work.
But the thing is, Skip, is he going to be okay with being a rotational player? That's another thing that you have to ask a guy, Skip. He's been an every down player. So is he going to be okay rotating? Is he going to be okay, instead of getting 60 snaps, maybe getting 30, 35 snaps?
Okay.
Those are things that you're going to have to talk to him about.
You want to win a championship or not?
Because I think the thing is, Skip, as we start to get age, what am I most effective at? Yeah, you can play 60, but are you going to be impactful at those 60? I'd rather for you be impactful at 30, 35 plays as opposed to just being out there to say, well, I'm playing. Man, he playing every snap. He's still playing every snap. But are you impactful? Are you making a difference on those snaps? And I think sometimes, Skip, as great players, as we start to age, we lose sight of that. It's just more important to be out on the field. Now, as I start to get older, Mike said, look, I don't need you for 65 plays. I need you for 40 great plays. Okay.
Okay. That was the Tampa way this year. Check your ego at the door. And we're going to rotate a lot of players all over the place, right? And nobody seemed to have an issue once they won the Super Bowl, right?
Right.
Okay.
And I think that's the only thing that's not in his resume, you know. I mean, you got Defensive Player of the Year, you got All-Pros, you got Rookie of the Years, but you want that final piece. You want the final piece of the puzzle, which is a Super Bowl ring.
Would you say he's a first-ballot Hall of Famer already? Already?
Yeah, he's locked.
All right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have to see how this one plays out, guys. Michael Vick is now going to join us to talk about the latest between Carson Wentz and the Eagles. Lots of movement.